Great. So thanks for joining us, and let's jump into the session of, first of all, why LinkedIn events and hyper-personalization. So first of all, LinkedIn doesn't need much of an introduction. We all know LinkedIn is massive. It's the biggest B2B social network out there. Over 800 million users, of which there's about 128 of those on the platform any given day. So daily active users. So there's lots of people in there, and they're kind of relatively easy to target in lots of different ways. Now, when we look at specifically events in LinkedIn, if you're going to give a search, I think this morning I looked, there's 132,000 events active on LinkedIn that you could discover. So that tells us a couple of things. One, that lots of people are creating events. So yes, there's a bit of competition there, but also it means lots of people create events there because there's some value in that. And if you search for an event for a given keyword that's relevant for you, you can often see events in there that have thousands, if not tens of thousands of kind of registrations. And so you can see that it's an active area of LinkedIn, and so a great place to kind of take your demo content or your event content and use LinkedIn as a kind of a starting off point to kind of get registrations. You can also see that LinkedIn want you to create content on their platform like events. And one of the ways that you can tell that is that they allow you to send a massive 1,000 invites per week per LinkedIn account. So that means is if you're not just a solo wolf, but you're in an office with a bunch of other SDRs, you can get a couple of you all inviting your networks to that event. And so just one LinkedIn account can create a couple of hundred people per week in terms of getting kind of invites into the actual people registering from the invites. So if you've got a couple of people doing that, you can really scale that out. And of course, they provide you with some really neat automation options as in terms of LinkedIn. So they're really encouraging you not only to create events, but to promote them and then create further automations from that. And that's all within their terms and conditions without having to use any automation tools. So that's you're not going to get a kind of a slap on the hand, as it were, from LinkedIn. So LinkedIn events, LinkedIn love them, and they've got great capacity to invite people. And then when we look at the kind of the capabilities that the LinkedIn page provide, when you've created a LinkedIn event, you can choose to use the LinkedIn registration form as a way for people to kind of register for your event. And the great thing about this is that when you see the registration button on the event page, when you click that, you get this form here to register for the event. Now you can see here that the form's already completely pre-filled with all of your LinkedIn details. The only box that's actually editable is the email address, which is still pre-populated, but gives you a chance to at least change that. So this is the least friction way that you can give somebody or provide to particular people to register for your event. And so you can get this amazing data, all of this data that probably ordinarily wouldn't be filled in, certainly not accurate in terms of, let's say, job title and things. And you get all of that, by the simple click of a button. And so that's one of the benefits of using LinkedIn events, is it's such a streamlined way of getting people to say, yes, I want to go to your event, and then give you a bunch of data in return. And then the other great thing is once you've got that data, it's what you can do with it. And so this is where the hyper-personalization comes in, and we can start to drive that engagement and that virality. In this case, we're looking at 3 different examples here of images, like event GIFs, but personalized GIF images that have been sent to people after they've registered. So again, the LinkedIn data gets shot out dynamically. We see that kind of being able to create these personalized images and then send them to people. And what that does is kind of a couple of fold. One, it creates this moment of delight where, Amy or Angie or Manoy here, they get their event GIF and they feel great. They've just registered for the event. And now they're getting this really personalized experience, which of course we know can help. But then on top of that, kind of leveraging that goodwill that you're creating, you can then say, hey, really love it if you could, share that you're coming to our event. That would mean a lot to us. Or, maybe you could offer a bribe. Like if you share it, you could get put in for a draw for a prize. And so because of that social capital you've built up from creating that goodwill, the chance of people sharing them increase. And the reason kind of why that goodwill exists is because of the way the human brain processes images. So the human brain processes images like 60,000 times quicker than text. So what that means is when we receive an image like this, with our name or our business name or whatever it may be in there, personalized to something, an action we've just taken, it creates that pattern interrupt, because it's so different from something we're maybe expecting. And that pattern interrupt is just a psychological behavior that just puts a brake on the brain, because the brain's saying, hey, stop, you must pay more attention to this. And that improved engagement, and that kind of creating that moment of delight, with the personalized images, just leads to more people engaging and taking the call to action. So in this case, asking them to share. And this is kind of a very simple email that we send out. Probably you'd have seen one similar when you registered for this event, where we're just kind of leveraging that, thanks for registering, creating that moment of delight, giving them a very simple method to share, 3 buttons, 3 different social platforms, and kind of enjoying the outcome from that, and then we see this sort of experience where, we can see these personalizations shared on one-to-one messages, in feeds, across different channels, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. In fact, when we look at the split and the performance of this across a group, it's really quite interesting, the effect this creates. And so this is an example here, again, of an event we did recently. And we had just over 400 people register it was a kind of a bi-weekly event. And of those about 400 people, 9.5, so that's 38 people out of those 400 shared to at least one of the social platforms that we gave the option to. And then on average, those 38 shares on average generated 6 additional registrations each. So that was over 212 additional registrations. So in total, this event had over 620 people register, and had a virtual virtually 50% uplift from using this kind of virality, this kind of boost from these shareable gifts. And as we can see here, the majority of the sharing happening on the LinkedIn platform, which again is great because obviously it was a LinkedIn event, and we want to create that engagement with kind of a B2B audience. So that's the kind of the theory behind it. We use LinkedIn events as a platform to promote our events. It doesn't matter whether your actual event is being promoted or kind of hosted on LinkedIn. You can put any sort of online link to there. This is just the method for you to kind of collect the registrants for your own event. So let's jump into how we would do that, how we would set it up. So first thing first is there's a URL you can go to, which just shows you all the events that you're presently registered for. And there you'll see a create button. Equally, on any event page that you're on, you'll also see a create event button on there. So let's just kind of look at what the next step is. And obviously the key there is to choose an organization and tick the LinkedIn registration form. So let's take a step back, get this URL and jump in and do that. So what I'm going to do is create an event here while we're kind of on the go. So I'm just going to, you see here, we've got the create button. So I'm going to click create. And what that's going to do is give me a couple of options in terms of the event kind of that I'm going to set up. The first of those, it's the most important, is the organizer. So the organizer, to be able to, if I just can leave it just E in there for a moment, what you'll notice is there's no option, no tick box for using the LinkedIn registration form. So when we change that to an organization, so if I choose a Hyperize business page here, we can see now we've got this additional option, use a LinkedIn registration form. And that's great because that means that we can now collect that data and obviously use it in the way that we're kind of just discussing. So what I'm going to do is just kind of, while we just kind of go through this process, just quickly just pop in all the information. So the event name, I'm going to choose an online event, which means that we'll get this external link, which we can leave blank for now, or you can put your Zoom link in. It doesn't matter, that could be anywhere where you want to redirect people to, but also you can redirect them via your emails as well. So then what I'm going to do is just put a description in there. So I've just save a little bit of time on the call. I've just pre-copied all of that. So I'm going to put the description in. I'm going to obviously choose a date and time. So when was the date? Let's choose the 1st of June. So we'll choose the 1st of June. And we were going to do that at 6 p.m. So let's choose 6 p.m. from here. There we go. We don't have to put in a privacy link, but that could just be any link on your website that kind of links there. And then finally, you can put your speakers in. So that's going to be yourself, can choose myself as a speaker. And also the final thing, actually not final thing, is choosing the cover for the upload. So I'm going to click this image here. What I should be able to do is find an image that I've created that I'm going to use. It's just kind of got a simple title, pretty much the one I use most times, just changing the title around. And there we go, we've pretty much got everything selected there. And click next. And so now we can just kind of create a shareable post about this. Let me just put in a little cheesy comment and post that. Excuse me. Right, and so we've got that now. You can see that immediately, as soon as we've built that event and got it done, we can actually start to invite people straight away. And so this is the great thing about LinkedIn and the events we create on here, that we can invite up to 1,000 people a week through this method. And we can do some quite interesting kind of filters here. We can filter by location, or if you want to target types of companies, if you're doing some ABM, or types of score, and also industry as well. So obviously industry is quite a solid one to be able to do in terms of kind of defining people's interests. So that's kind of certainly a good way of being able to kind of create the sort of people that you want to target. So if there's people members of groups, which covers companies, that's great. Like, doing something about sales, then invite everybody that's got Rev Genius there, so you can start scrolling down here, and this will just be an infinitely list that you can just then just kind of select and then invite those 70 people to the event. It's a very simple way of being able to invite people to your event, and like I say, do 1,000 a week, so 4,000 a month virtually. So that's really how simple it is to build your event. It took us a couple of minutes there. Obviously, I already had the text and image done, but a couple more minutes to get those done. And obviously, the key being organizer and ticking the box for event registration form. And because we've ticked those, when anybody comes here, they're going to see the registration button before they get to see any of the details of the event, like the event link. So that's the kind of the first step, which was to create the event. Now what I want to do is create a shareable GIF for our event. So in this case, what I'm going to do is go to Hyperize. Now you can log in if you already have an account, of course. If you don't, we have a completely free trial, 14 days, but happy to extend that for anybody that's kind of halfway to their event and the trial's running out. This intended idea of the trial is to kind of give you a good run to see the value in this. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to log into my own account. But what you'll notice is whether you have a new account, existing account, or a trial account, there will be some example templates here in your account that you can use, similar to the ones you'd have probably seen already. And in this case, there's quite simple templates. We've got a GIF background, and again, very simple to create your own GIF backgrounds and upload those. And then we're just putting through some personalization, like first name, last name, and logo where available. We just had a bit of a tongue-in-cheek, adding the VIP ticket here to make people feel a bit more special. And then obviously we've got some text here. That's, it can be the name of your logo and the date. You can obviously put some imagery in there in terms of some event imagery as well. And so we kind of, once we've created our image or used the template one we've got here and added in our own variables, we can then start to use that in the automation. So very simple to go to and kind of start building and adding in these layers for your Hyperize image template. Once we've got that, those two elements done, we've got our event, we've got our image ready to use to start inviting people. Then the next step, very simply, is using Zapier to create this automation. And so the automation will go from, triggered from LinkedIn. So every time someone registers, LinkedIn will start this trigger. We'll create the personalized short link from our event image, and then we'll send that out in an email. Now, again, the sending out an email, in this case, in this example, we're using Gmail. You could, of course, send the data to your CRM or send it to your other email automation platform, or even another event management system if you wanted to, and then send the kind of the correspondence from there. In this case, for the purposes of illustration, just easier just to send it direct within Gmail. But to kind of copy and start off with this kind of starting point, all we need to do is simply click this link here. And what that's going to do is take us to that Zap that we created and allow us to take a copy of it and use it for ourselves. So I'm just going to click the try this Zap button and just go through that process just to show you how simple that really can be. So you can see here now that I've got this Zap, it's in my own account. Obviously, if you hadn't already been signed up for Zapier, then you would have to kind of sign up or log in first. You see, I was already logged in, so it's just throwing it straight into my account, and I can simply just go through these 3 steps and just get them set up. And so the first part of that is from the LinkedIn perspective, and all we're doing is choosing our LinkedIn account. Again, you can see I've already got a LinkedIn account set up. If not, I'll just need to kind of log in with my credentials. Once I've done that, I can now choose the organization, and this is going to obviously tie up to the organization that we chose in the event that we were creating. And so what that means is now what we should see in this list, there we go, is the event. There we go, it's this one here that we've just created today. And so we can now, we've selected our organization, we've got the event. What we can also do here, if you notice a little comment here, if we could have chosen not to select an event, what that means is that we could fire this little solution or this little trigger for any event. So we have multiple events on at the same time, then we could trigger this different invites or these kind of different thanks for registering for every single event. In this case, I'm just going to select it for the event that we've just created. I'm going to select continue. So now we just have to kind of test that trigger. It's going to test our credentials and all those sort of things. And obviously in this case, what it's saying is it can't find any registrants. So what I'm actually going to do is, just for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm just going to select one that we've already done here. Because obviously that obviously has some registrants in there. Right, so now we can see that, if you get into this problem when you're doing it, maybe once you've created your event, just get a friend or a member of staff or kind of anybody around just to kind of create that first registration, and then obviously you LinkedIn or Zapier will be able to find that data and you'll be good to go. So you can see now we're putting through some of the data from the LinkedIn form, so that's all good. So we can click continue. And so now we're on to step 2, which is creating the hyperized short link, which is that shareable link that's going to embed the image. So again, first of all, we have to log into Hyperize. You can see again, I've already got my login here, but again, it's simple, just add your kind of API credentials in there and that will be good to go. And then from there, what we're able to do is choose our image template, the one that we were just kind of created or using in Hyperize. So in this case, I'm going to choose my event simple example template. And then also what we need to do is add in our landing page. So what we're going to do is in these shareable images, that when they're shared and when they're clicked, they're going to go to our event page. Obviously going to help that kind of virality of people going to your event. So what we need to do is just get our event page, which is everything apart from the about part. So that's what you see that once you've registered. So we can just get that from the URL. We can go back to Zapier and add that in, simple as that. And you can see the title. The title, if you remember, going back to the images, is what appears underneath the image once it's shared. So you see the image and then the title underneath. So in this case, underneath the image, we're going to see the title, I'm attending whatever the name of the event is, you should check it out. So this is kind of giving that social endorsement that when the person that's registered for your event gets their personalized GIF and then shares it, they're telling their network, their audience, hey, I'm attending this event, really cool, you should too. So you may want to kind of modify that text a little bit, or you might be happy with as it is. As you can see, we're pulling through the name of the event dynamically, automatically from the LinkedIn event. So again, if we were processing multiple different events, this would still kind of work for that in terms of the name there. Also, what we're pulling through is the prospect's email, first name, last name, and business name, again, from the LinkedIn form. And then finally, if we'd chosen to, some of the event tickets we have, in this case, this one doesn't that we worked with, but you see some of these, we put QR codes in there. Again, that just gives another visual lightning to the ticket, but actually it also can be functional. And so when scanned, take you somewhere. So again, if we wanted someone to scan and go to the event, in the QR code URL, we would add the event code in there. So once we've kind of added in all our bits of data, we can click continue. And again, we can do a little test and that will just create the personalized short link. Again, that should all work perfectly fine. There we go. And so now we're on to our last step. And so this case, as I mentioned, we're using Gmail in this example, but you could quite easily click plus here and add in, you know, an Outlook solution, or, you know, putting it into HubSpot or Mailshake or whatever your chosen solution was. But in this case, I'm just going to choose my standard Gmail account. Click continue here. And again, you can see the fields already filled in based on this shareable Zap that we've provided. So again, we've got the email in here, which is going to the person who's registered. You could put a CC in, put yourself in there if you wanted to kind of receive this too. Your from name is as well, obviously, where you're going to put your name in there. So they can see who it's coming from. Obviously, it's coming from your email address, but you have like the show name. And then we have the email subject. And again, we're using placeholders to create this as dynamically as possible. So first name, thanks for registering for whatever the name of the event is, event. And then finally, we have this body of the email. And again, we've got all of the placeholder parameters in there. So there's nothing really we need to change in this. You can see, so the email is hi, first name, thanks for registering for name of the event. And then here with this kind of bit of code here is showing the personalized image. And again, it's clickable, and it's going to be clickable going to your event. And then we have this little kind of paragraph here. I'd love it if you'd share it on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook if you're attending our event. Click on any of the buttons below to share your personalized gift to win some cool prizes at the event. So again, obviously, feel free to change your bribe and kind of, obviously, the bigger the bribe, the more the shares, you know, that sort of thing, or maybe more social arm twister. And then finally, this kind of big lump of code here is this 3 shareable buttons. And again, you don't need to change anything at all there. It's all dynamic based on all the things we've chosen before. And then finally, at the end, see you at the event, all the best. And so again, you might want to put your name there, all the best, Bob, whatever it may be. And then that's it. So we simply click continue. I won't test and continue this one, because otherwise that means that Neil's going to get this message and it's not going to make sense because it's not an event that he's registered for. But hopefully you see the idea that once we've selected test and continue, that's it. That whole action is then live and it's good to go. You know, and then every time somebody registered, we're going to create that short link automatically. It's going to personalize their image and they're going to receive that as a thank you, have that moment of delight, and then they're much more likely to share that and create more social endorsement for your event. So that's the very kind of basics of how we create that. And now let's kind of talk about how we can promote it. Now, we've seen already in the event, when we look at the event page, we have this invite here, and that provides a very simple way that we as individuals can just kind of go through, create some filtering of some description, and then as soon as we create some filtering, then we're able to kind of do this full select, and we can just keep scrolling down, and as we keep scrolling down, just keep lazy loads. You can load, like I say, we can invite like 1,000 a week. So if you want to sit here and kind of go through here and scroll for you know, however many times, probably like 20 shows at a time, so, you know, scrolling about a couple of hundred times, then yeah, you can absolutely do that, and it will take about 20 minutes or so. Or there's some great and interesting automation tools that you can use that enable you to do this obviously much quicker, but also in a slightly more interesting way, in that right now, as you can see, the filterings we've got as industry and also school, company, and location. So, okay, not too bad at all, I have to say. But imagine if you could use all of the sales nav filters and be able to look at, you know, has somebody been active on LinkedIn recently? And invite somebody if they've been active. You know, do they have more shared experiences? You know, how long is their experience? You know, time working in that area. All of those sort of additional filters. So we're using an automation tool like Expandy. What we can do is create a filter or search filter based on people we want to invite to the event, and then Expandy will just send out, you know, a couple of hundred invites per day on your behalf, spacing it out but more laser focused in terms of how you do that. I'll share some links for Expandy later on, but I wanted to share with you the manual way, which is totally great. And like I say, it takes half an hour or 45 minutes per week. And then there's an automated way. The automated way, of course, saves you a bit of time, but also gives you there's extra targeting options, which essentially means you're going to be more successful in terms of the people taking up those options. Better targeting means better results. So that's kind of how we start to promote the event. And then it's obviously, when we're promoting these events, we're inviting our first degree connections. And so what we want to do is go beyond just our first degree connections. What we want to do is grow our first degree connections, so we've got new people to invite every month. And so what we want to do, what kind of people have done historically when they're doing that, is kind of send out connections and then messaging and kind of grow your network that way, just using the standard amount of limits that you have, using the kind of standard interface of LinkedIn. However, LinkedIn really don't like you to kind of keep messaging people and just trying to give them call to actions that just takes you out of LinkedIn to go and look at a landing page somewhere else, or was a bad user experience for people coming into LinkedIn because they're just being bombarded in their inbox. And so LinkedIn have kind of reduced your ability to do that to now no more than 100 people per week can you kind of send out new connection requests to. However, there is another way that you can do that, and this is an article. It's actually on LinkedIn itself, which kind of draws the attention to the fact that you can upload at a time up to 10,000 contacts. So you can upload a CSV file directly into this contacts page in LinkedIn. I can upload a file of emails of people that I already know, and then LinkedIn will kind of do the connection dance dynamically for me, and it not be part of my 100 per week. So you could be doing hundreds per day using this method. So that's great, but you might be asking, well, where do I get the contacts from? Where do I get those details from? And again, that's where a solution, an automation solution like Expandy or Texo, and again, we've linked to both of them here, become really interesting, because what we can do is, like we saw here in our own event, we can see we've got one attendee here, right? But if I just now search for some events that have got some kind of maybe larger audiences than the one that we've just created, let's just choose this one here. We can see 460 people have kind of registered for this event. You can see I haven't registered yet, so I don't get to see all of them. I can't see anything. But if I register for this event, you can see here we've already got all of the form filled in, so I can just simply click submit. I won't add it to my calendar, but now that I've done that, you can see this is now a link, 459 attendees. And if I click that link, we've now got a list of every single one of those. So you can see 47 pages, 10 per page, the full 400 odd registrants for that event. So I can now simply take this link here, and again, using an automation tool like Expandy, like Texo, I can pull all of these people out from this list. So now what I'm doing is I've established that these are people that attend events, that are interested in events as a medium, and also they're interested in whatever this event was. In this case, I'd search for B2B and search people that maybe have an interest in B2B. So this is a great way of establishing not just a good targeted audience, but ones that are also more likely to kind of take action because they've seemed to be done that already. And so taking this audience, we can use an automation tool, and they'll pull those through and probably get a good somewhere between 30 and 50% hit rate in terms of finding the emails. So that's my experience with Expandy. It's one that I use. In terms of finding the emails for those LinkedIn profiles you've got. And then, of course, once you've got those LinkedIn profiles, then you can leverage this import CSV contact process to then kind of do your invites at a much higher kind of scale. And so, what you might be able to do is, have 2,000 invites per month, using this process, or even more. And you can see here from this screenshot at the bottom, this is a recent CSV import campaign that I started. You see there's 15,000 in there that actually uploaded it in 2 parts. So I know it was 10,000 maximum, so it was 7,000 odds. But out of that total of 15,000 that's being processed, 4,000 have already had a message sent, a connection message, and you can see 2,227 have accepted that. So that's 51.6% connection rate using this method. So even though it's a high volume kind of scale option, it still can be incredibly successful in terms of your connection rates. Obviously, your connection rates, if we're able to send out more than 2,000 of these a month, then that's over 1,000 people that we're able to add, and those 1,000 people effectively can be, maybe 20 or 30% of those are going to accept your invite to come to your event, because of the targeting you've done. Going to be more likely to be the 30%. So you've added another 300 people, into your event, from using this automation. So it's a great way to scale, adding and growing your network month to month. And the great thing here is that we're using LinkedIn to kind of send the invites. We're not doing an invite then immediately pitch. And so, their kind of touch points have been more kind of LinkedIn based. LinkedIn's kind of organized the link, the connection, and then also the event invite as well effectively comes from LinkedIn. And so, you're not kind of annoying people in maybe the same way that you could do if you were kind of just doing a kind of a connect and pitch. So again, doing it at scale, but doing it in a more graceful way. So that's kind of the process in a 40-minute nutshell. I hope that's been useful. Everything that we've covered today is available in a more detailed step-by-step guide that I'm going to link to in this presentation here. But what I wanted to do is kind of take a moment to kind of cover any questions that anybody has. While those questions come in, I'll just kind of cover what we've got here in the Q&A section. In terms of everything that we've talked about, like I said, there's a guide, a step-by-step guide that's available here. And then there's links to the tools that we've used. So that was Hyperize. That was obviously creating events in LinkedIn and creating the automation with Zapier. We also mentioned 2 other automation tools for LinkedIn. That was Expanding Texo, and also the process of uploading a CSV directly into LinkedIn if you're doing it manually. And again, that's the link there. So a couple of questions coming in. So I'll just address those before I kind of jump on to the next slide. So again, a couple of questions about the recording. Yes, absolutely. We're going to provide the recording. It will be sent out tomorrow, or touch wood, all things being well, along with a link to this deck and a couple of other support pieces. In terms of, does this process work for Facebook? Another good question. So absolutely. If we kind of go back to the kind of the Zapier process that we looked at, which is this one here, pretty much all of these steps are interchangeable in that Zapier in this case is getting a webhook data call from LinkedIn that's providing the data from the registration. You can do that same process with a Facebook ad form as well when that's created, trigger a process. And so we could switch out here LinkedIn for Facebook and then still have the same process where we're still exactly creating the short link from the data that's come from the registrant and then sending it out. And again, obviously the sending out could be replaced for sending that data somewhere else for it to be sent in a different way. In terms of the kind of the email that is eventually sent out with the share buttons, of course the shares work in exactly the same way. We already were kind of creating shares within the email that we use, as we saw here for Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn. And you saw in this case from this example, we did have the highest share in LinkedIn, the smallest in Facebook. But obviously this was predominantly a LinkedIn kind of focused event that was promoted on LinkedIn. So it's no wonder that it was LinkedIn. But yeah, absolutely, you could do this with any sort of event. Like I say, the only reason I like any sort of form completion, we could do this. It doesn't even have to be an event. It's just, like I said before, what I like about LinkedIn is it's kind of pre-populating that form for you, and so it's removing a lot of the friction, from a kind of a user having to do something for you to get their data, which is the ultimate kind of aim of this. But yeah, all of these steps can be modified. You know, still take a copy of this and just change one Zap out for another. And you know, in Zapier itself, it's super simple to do that. You know, I could just click this plus here, and then that's going to allow me to now search in here for, you know, like for a Facebook pages, conversion message, whatever, you know, any of these kind of form fields, whatever it might be, you know, is a Zap that I'm going to use to be a trigger point to send some data to that next step. So yeah, absolutely, we can do that. In terms of other questions, do we have any other kind of questions at all? Or what I might do is just kind of meander on to the next thing that I wanted to kind of cover. Obviously, cover the links, you're going to get access to that. I think the final thing that you know, is important to people is obviously cost. You know, how are we able to fund this? You know, what is going to be the ROI? And so in terms of that, there's obviously lots of different tools that you could use. You don't have to use Expandy. Unfortunately, Zapier is one of the nailed on tools if we're thinking about LinkedIn, because LinkedIn only supports Zapier in terms of being able to automate the process of sending out those automatic registrant details. You can also, within the event itself, once you've, where was my event tab? Let's go back to here. What you can do, if we find the event that was our event, too far back. So here, in this manage option, you can see here, download registrant information. So if you didn't want to use Zapier and you just wanted to kind of, you know, on a daily, weekly, or whatever basis, download the registrant data, it will come in a CSV file, and then you can just import that into whatever tool you want to then kind of continue the process of, you know, sending out the events, you know, and obviously adding Hyper-personalization into the mix. You know, to kind of drive that engagement and virality. So this will be the cost for using the three tools as we've kind of shown today. But obviously, you know, feel free to mix around and change those, but that's kind of the cost there. Obviously, the Hyper-personalization being one of the cheaper elements. Also, important to bear in mind that all of these tools have a free trial, and so what you're going to be able to do is prove the concept and, you know, what your potential ROI would be before kind of fully investing from a cost perspective. So, you know, you're going to get a couple of weeks of Hyper-personalization. Zapier has a free tier for the first 100 Zaps. So the first 100 invites you sent are going to be free. And then 39 actually is a couple of tiers up that takes you up to like 1,500. So more than enough you need for, you know, each month. And then Expandy again has a free trial before it jumps to the 99 once you complete the trial. So hopefully that's given you some ideas on cost, as well as strategy, as well as Hyper-personalization, as well as LinkedIn events, and as well as smashing it all together. I'm seeing that we're not getting any more questions come through, so I guess that just leaves me to say thanks everybody for joining us today. Really do appreciate your time. It's always great to jump on a call and kind of chat with you all and meet you all. So, you know, if you do think of anything else after this session, please feel free to reach out to us at Hyper-personalization. Go to hyper-personalization.com and jump in the chat, or jump to the booking page and grab a time with us, and we'll be would love to chat further. Until then, look forward to catching up soon. Have a great one. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye bye.